You are biologically wired to run away from pain. It is the oldest, most primal directive in your DNA. 100,000 years ago, if you felt pain, it meant a predator's teeth were sinking into your leg, or you were touching fire, or you were eating something poisonous. Pain was a binary signal. Stop doing this, or you will die. So, your brain evolved a highly efficient system to seek comfort, which signaled safety, and to avoid discomfort at all costs. But here is the problem. We don't live on the savannah anymore. The threats we face today aren't saber-toothed tigers or freezing temperatures. They are deadlines. They are breakups. They are the existential dread that hits you at 2 a.m. when you realize you feel empty despite having everything you were supposed to want. Your brain, stuck in the Stone Age, treats these emotional threats exactly like physical ones. It sounds the alarm. It floods your system with cortisol. It screams at you to run, to numb out, to retreat to the safety of your comfort zone. But in the modern world, this survival instinct has become a trap. By avoiding the pain of growth, we accidentally avoid growth itself. We build lives that are safe, curated, and comfortable, creating a padded cell where nothing can hurt us, but where nothing can transform us either. I know this trap intimately. For years, I was the architect of a perfect life. I followed every rule in the manual. I chased the career, the social status, the image of stability. I constructed a fortress of comfort so thick that I thought nothing could touch me. And then, in a matter of months, the walls didn't just crack, they disintegrated. A devastating loss combined with a professional crisis created a perfect storm that leveled everything I thought I was. My first instinct was exactly what my biology dictated: anesthetize the wound. I ran. I distracted myself with work until my eyes burned. I traveled to places I didn't care about just to keep moving. I scrolled through feeds, drank too much, and intellectualized my feelings to keep them at arm's length. I did everything possible to stop the bleeding, but the pain was relentless. It wasn't until I stopped running, turned around, and looked the monster in the eye that I realized I had been reading the map upside down. We live in a culture that treats happiness as the default setting and pain as a system error. We are sold a relentless, sanitized fantasy where a good life means a life without struggle. If you are hurting, the messaging tells you that you are doing it wrong. You need to buy this product, take this vacation, or pop this pill to get back to normal. We have become masters of avoidance. We view an uncomfortable conversation or a difficult church service or a moment of silence not as an opportunity, but as a nuisance to be escaped. We surround ourselves with echo chambers of people who think exactly like us, because having our worldview challenged hurts. But this pursuit of comfort is the great lie of our time. It promises safety, but what it actually delivers is stagnation. When you avoid the resistance of the weight, your muscles atrophy. When you avoid the resistance of life, your soul atrophies. The single most powerful shift you can make, the one that changes the trajectory of your entire life, is to stop viewing pain as a punishment and start viewing it as data. Pain is not a cosmic penalty. It is high-fidelity feedback. When you touch a hot stove, the searing heat isn't there to judge you. It is a rapid-fire message from your nervous system shouting, "Move your hand." You don't hate the nerves for sending the signal. You are grateful they prevented you from burning your hand off. Emotional and spiritual pain operate on the exact same frequency. That gnawing ache of loneliness you feel, that isn't a defect, it is a messenger screaming that you have a deep unmet need for connection. That sharp, suffocating sting of rejection, it is a spotlight revealing your desperate desire to belong. The heavy, crushing weight of grief. It is simply the measure of your capacity to love. Science is actually starting to map this out. A 2025 study from the Salk Institute identified a specific neural circuit connecting the thalamus to the amygdala, the brain's fear center, that encodes the emotional flavor of pain. They found that the physical sensation and the emotional suffering are distinct processes. This emotional distress isn't a glitch. It is a motivational superfuel designed to force behavioral change. It is designed to make you move. So the next time you feel that drop in your stomach, instead of asking, "How do I make this stop?" you need to ask, "What is this trying to tell me? Where am I lying to myself? What old version of me is trying to die right now?" When you do this, you stop being the victim of your pain and you become its student. This isn't just poetic license. This is the psychology of transformation. In the mid-1990s, psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun coined a term that gets far less attention than PTSD, but is just as real: post-traumatic growth, or PTG. Their research showed that after a seismic psychological event, people don't just bounce back to who they were before. Many of them bounce forward. They surpass their previous levels of functioning. They report deeper relationships, a radical shift in priorities, and a profound increase in personal strength. But here is the catch. The growth doesn't come from the trauma itself. Trauma is just the earthquake. The growth comes from the rebuilding. It comes from the struggle to make sense of the wreckage. We saw this during the pandemic. Studies showed that those who leaned into the fear and uncertainty, rather than just numbing it out, emerged with higher resilience. Neuroplasticity proves that when we intentionally process difficult emotions, we are literally rewiring the architecture of our brains. We are building new highways of resilience. So, how do you actually do this? How do you alchemize suffering into wisdom? It happens in stages, and understanding the map helps you navigate the storm. It begins with the collapse of numbness. The defenses fail. The dam breaks. This is the moment most people panic because it feels like a breakdown. But you have to reframe this. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. You are finally feeling the backlog of reality you've been ignoring. This leads to the second phase, the great unraveling. This is the messy part. This is where you have to give yourself permission to be a human being. We are taught to be stoic, to stay strong, but true strength is the courage to let the wave hit you. You have to grieve. You have to feel the anger. You have to let the system flush itself out, whether that's through therapy, screaming into a pillow, or running until your lungs burn. You cannot skip this. You cannot intellectualize your way out of a feeling. You have to feel your way out. Eventually, this moves into integration. This is where you pick up the pieces and see that they form a different picture. You realize that the pain wasn't a punishment for being bad. It was a demand for you to expand. You start to see the patterns. You realize you kept choosing the same toxic partners because you were trying to heal a wound from your childhood. You realize you were working that job you hated because you were desperate for validation. The pain burns away the illusions until only the truth remains. To navigate this, you need a toolkit. You need protocols. The first is to become the observer. When the anxiety spikes, instead of saying, "I am anxious," say, "I am experiencing a sensation of anxiety." It sounds small, but it creates a gap between you and the emotion. You are the sky, the emotion is just the weather. Watch the storm without drowning in it. The second tool is active reframing. Use the metaphor of the snake. A snake doesn't shed its skin because it's a fun hobby. It sheds it because the old skin has become too tight. It is a painful, blinding, vulnerable process where the snake is essentially helpless. But it is the only way to grow. When you feel that constriction, tell yourself, this is just the old skin peeling away. The third tool is validation. Stop fighting your own feelings. Stop telling yourself you shouldn't feel sad. That internal civil war exhausts you. Just say, I feel like garbage right now, and that is allowed. Paradoxically, the moment you give the pain permission to exist, it often loses its death grip on you. And finally, you must confront the baggage. Use journaling not as a diary of complaints, but as an investigative report. Is this story I'm telling myself actually true? Or is this just my ego trying to protect me? This work is not easy. It is the hardest work you will ever do. It is easier to stay numb. It is easier to stay a victim. But suffering is a catalyst. No one walks through the fire and comes out the same on the other side. The choice isn't whether you will suffer that is guaranteed by virtue of being alive. The choice is whether that suffering will harden you into bitterness, or whether you will use it as fuel to burn away everything that isn't you, leaving behind something stronger, wiser, and infinitely more real.